don't care what society thinks. They're nothing anyway. They're no better than me.
Until we hear the safe word, we will not stop.
Have you ever thought what it would be like to see a person's head amputated? Think of things so horrible that the human mind cannot imagine them. See all this and more when you see on stage, in person, that crazy mix-up.
I like being set apart from people. I like to be hated.
Safe Word with Jason Rouse.
His head was found in a driving wheel, but his body was never found.
I don't know about you, but that's a little scary. Hey, this is Jason Rouse, and welcome to the Safe Word Podcast. My guest today, Killian Monson.
Monson.
I know, I said it right the first time. I want to say Monsoon because Killian Monson sounds like an 80s wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's funny, actually, someone actually said that to me today, that Lillian Monsoon, getting my name wrong on purpose, sounded like a professional wrestler from the 80s.
Yeah.
Which I'm not.
No, contrary to
Contrary
your aesthetics.
My aesthetics, I'm not a professional wrestler from the 80s or modern era.
Did you follow wrestling? Because I don't know what it was
like.
Yeah. Because it seemed like Europe and or England and Canada had a long history of that kind of theatrical, quote, wrestling in the 80s and stuff. A lot of people were coming out of, especially the Bret the Hitman Hart and all that stuff.
Territory system that was back in the 80s. Yeah. Well,
it was pretty gangster from what I could tell from it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seemed to be like the shit for everybody in the 80s, and then Vince McMahon came along and swallowed up all the competition everywhere and turned it into one kind of global conglomerate.
The Walmart of action sports.
And then it is what it is today through, going public and all that kind of shit. But I grew up watching Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, The Undertaker, all that kind of shit. Yeah, I grew up watching that shit when I was
Roddy Piper was, he was doing some touring and one-man shows and things like that, but he started to spend a lot of time at the Comedy Store.
Yeah,
he
I
started
heard
doing
that.
some stand-up. So his name is actually on the wall of the Comedy Store. I think they made an exception, and the few times that I'd met him and that he was around, the guy couldn't be a more endearing, nice person. Like it's Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Who's not going to freak out? Like, it's like I saw Mr. T in the gym.
Really? Which gym?
In a 24-hour fitness in Sherman Oaks.
Right.
And Kevin Hart was there.
Yeah.
So I'd met Kevin in Toronto when he was like little Kev. Kenny Robinson used to bring him in for the all-black comedy shows.
Right.
One of the few American acts that he would bring over, and he was the first person I'd ever seen do an hour and a half of comedy.
Kevin Hart?
Yeah, and kill it. So I know, I was like, cool, I hadn't seen him in a while. He's clearly gone on to stardom. And it was like, wow, nice to see you again. And then we both look at each other and go, Mr. T's here.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
If you were born when I was in 1949, how old are you now? You're in your hundreds.
I'm 32 now.
32, because when I'd met you, let's introduce you.
Yeah, we should probably give some context just so that people listening to this what is inevitably destined to be one of your lowest fucking listened to podcasts.
No,
because of who the fuck is this fucking nothing that you have got on?
No, that's not true, because you were a small piece in a very poignant part of my life in England, and via comedy, music, which was something I'd never really... I had those in two separate boxes coming out of Canada. And then when moving to the UK, Within a matter of 6 months, I'm at Glastonbury Festival.
Right.
You could do comedy outside in the mud, and people will watch at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, thousands of them will. I couldn't, and I tried to bring that format. I tried to do a European music festival style with a band comedian, with an interval. It was the disaster.
Yeah.
They couldn't make the transformation from a comedy audience to watching extreme music. And then if there was a break, everyone went home at the break.
Right.
I was like, this is your time to load up a drink so that you can pay attention during the stand-up portion of the show.
Yeah.
But it was like showing a dog a
It's
card
always been. It's always been.
We still haven't answered the question.
We still haven't actually explained who the fuck I am for these people.
So I moved to England. 2 names were brought up immediately: Jim Jeffries and Steve Hughes. Jim for his comedic styles, and Steve for his music tastes. Mm-hmm. And immediately is like, even though the accent, the aesthetics, and his demeanor was like, oh, I grew up with all these guys.
Yeah.
We're relatively the same age. His music tastes, he really opened it up for me, because what I was getting from, exposure to music was through like skateboarding, circles of punk rock and hardcore music, and then later, they thrash metal, Megadeth, Slayer, the usual suspects, the big 3, 4,
big four,
minus my countryman Anvil. How rude!
Well, everyone seems to have just fucking taken an enormous shit all over Anvil relentlessly in terms of just stealing everything that they had to offer, and even went through sort of recent revival with the documentary Anvil, the story of Anvil, that kind of brought it back up a bit for their career and everything like that, but they seem to have just gone back to square one all over again.
They played the Viper Room a little while ago, which is clearly.
I saw them in Manchester, in England.
Thor played here a couple months ago, and I did not go. Yes,
out of here.
Thor played at the Viper Room. I'm a little disappointed. It was kind of like not getting a chance to see Johnny Cash. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you've seen that documentary on Netflix on him.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like the life that he lived and his Vegas act and all that. A lot of the Canadian bands are not as they're typically Canadian. They're not that angry.
Yeah.
They're more like the Killer Dwarfs. Killer Dwarfs. A lot of the Canadian artists had a sense of humor about themselves, except like the Drake and the Justin's Beaver.
Oh, I keep forgetting that Drake is from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, so does he.
We still haven't actually answered who the fuck I am. But
So, and then I think we might have gone to a show with Steve or something like that. Was in London or something.
The way I remember it was that, right, to actually finally put this fucking question to rest, I now say to people, because I can't even be fucking bothered to say that I was a stand-up, because it just sounds like I was. It just sounds like that scene was with Marlon Brando thing. I could have been a contender.
Sure.
That kind of shit.
That Al Bundy thing. I was on the football team.
It basically just sounds like I am a failure whenever I say I used to do stand-up. But so I say to people now, I used to be involved in the comedy scene, but I used to do stand-up.
Yeah.
And I started at sort of the tail end of 2004, early 2005. I forget exactly when.
I think it was literally the first year and a half that you had done stand-up.
Yes, it was, because I met you at the London Comedy Store in 2006.
Yeah.
Sort of summerish. And it was my first time playing the London Comedy Store.
And what a great place.
Yeah, a fucking superb place. Perfect room. I mean, it is essentially, it's like Hitler's bunker.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's a basement room, but perfect.
Way more laughs, though.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean,
not on the Gong Show.
It wasn't the Gong Show.
No, but that show could be pretty.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the first fucking time I ever went to the London Gong Show. Here's a story for you. There was, I was I was taking a piss when this was going on, but
Oh,
hello, it's
my
5
computer
o'clock.
talks.
Paul Bettany, a Scouse comic, who I'm not sure he does comedy anymore himself, but he told me what later on transpired. A woman, the Gong Show, if people don't know, is, you know, kind of like a contrived bear pit where they get as many fucking lunatics on as possible, see if they can try the last 5 minutes without, you know, 3 people in the audience waving a red card, or the gongmeister, the MC's discretion to get rid of the fuckers. So they just get fucking anybody to do this shit, and they try and
but also some gems get in there.
Some gems get in there.
It sounds like very malicious the way you described it, but that's a porthole for you to get in, and there you know it's set up for disaster.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
the people that rock that room, really, everyone's proud of them,
but
because they know how hard it is. Well, you get fucking ripped.
Well, that's why I mean I barely watch stand up anymore. I have more fun watching people just fucking eat shit on stage.
Well, you've seen and worked with some of the best comedians.
Absolutely. I mean, but anyway, this woman came on to do the Gong Show. She had a headscarf on, completely bald. She's obviously terminal, right?
Yeah, which is always hilarious.
Which is always superb and is going to win you over support, or so she thought.
Yeah.
She comes up on stage and said, "Hello, my name's Lisa," or whatever her fucking name was.
It's a telethon now.
And I've got stage 4 cancer or whatever it was, and one of the last things I would like to do before I die is stand-up comedy. Gong, straight off.
Yeah. And that's how it's supposed to be.
But she wouldn't leave.
No.
And she wouldn't leave, and she was screaming at the audience. She was berating them to say, "How could you? This is so... how you inhumane scum." And she eventually got carted off to the audience chanting, "Fuck off and die."
Great.
I mean,
that's one thing I loved about the Brits, is their sense of theater is so deep and long, and like people lost heads after bad gags for centuries.
Yeah.
You know, it's been Game
court
of Thrones.
jesters, would fucking get their tongues ripped
booed
out.
Off.
And shit.
You were lucky to get booed off.
Yeah,
strung, drawed, and quartered because the rubber chicken didn't come out in time.
But if you're like a fresh-faced 19-year-old like I was, because I started when I was 19.
Yeah.
And I had no fucking business doing it. I had no life experience. I had a really sheltered upbringing. And yeah. And I was like really enthused. I hated school. I hated being in the middle of nowhere. I wanted to be out in the cities. I wanted to be...
It's like being in a one-man rock band.
Yeah. I wanted to be watching shows. I wanted to be going to see heavy metal gigs. I wanted to be doing all of that shit. Yeah. And for some reason, I just thought I was belligerent enough to give it a go.
Well, Steve Hughes is like it's very intoxicating to see somebody that's that good and that cool.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're like, you know, I can flow with that.
And
shit.
I was sort of had a similar experience to you in that, you know, the first person that everyone kept mentioning to me when I started was, you should check out Steve Hughes, because they never mentioned the heavy metal thing to me. They just kept saying, check this guy out. And then I met him at, did you ever play XS Malarkey in Manchester?
No, I couldn't get into the Frog and Bucket in Manchester.
Well, that's really quite a sad indictment when you can't get into that fucking shit heap.
He told me flat out he was not having me. And my friend got in an argument with him, and I just walked away. I couldn't care. I'm at the Manchester Comedy Store, which I almost got in a fight. Because
really?
Nothing to do with the show. That spiral staircase?
Yes, yeah.
I bumped a guy. You know how crowded it is. It's one of those coiling staircases that are very... barely, and you got a bunch of fat manx. Yeah. And the fucking guy, he tried to pull that display off the wall and hit me with it. And He was a short, stocky guy. He was there. He was my go-to guy.
Dino,
the doorman.
The doorman.
He was right
glasses.
there. Yeah. He was a friend of mine. He was like, "What the fuck, mate?" And they wrestled him up the door. He goes, "What'd you say?" I go, "Nothing." I bumped him. He goes, "That's why he wanted to kill you." I'm like, out of all the shit that's come out of my mouth.
But this is the same venue with Jim Jeffries famously getting punched on stage,
and we're held at knife point. With Steve Hughes.
Yes,
and his girlfriend. Whitehead happened to be conveniently away.
Yeah.
But what a infamous.
Well, that story is just like Jim talked about it on stage in an Edinburgh show years ago. Like he gave a real kind of. Steve is still to this day, he's still kind of cagey about it.
Sure.
For obvious reasons. Like,
he had a machete.
Well, for people who don't know what we're talking about, these Jim Jeffries, John Whitehead, and Steve Hughes
used to live in a house together in a suburb of Manchester called Whalley Range.
You grew up in this town.
I didn't grow up in Manchester. I grew up in fucking
You're very
nowhere.
offended from that. You rather grew up in a one-horse town?
Nowhere near this. I grew up kind of all over the place. I used to...
You know where my grandfather's from?
Where?
Grimsby.
Really?
That's how I got in the country. Via my grandfather's from Grimsby. My grandmother's from Cork, but my grandfather's from Grimsby. I was trying to navigate. It's a shit fishing town from what I've been told.
It's a shithole, yeah.
But you have probably been there at some point.
I used to live not far away from Grimsby.
Really?
I used to live just outside Hull.
Okay.
Which is East Yorkshire, which is kind of...
I like Yorkshire.
It's a bit... I think Hull's north of Grimsby, I think.
Your accent is very...
mixed.
Distinct.
Distinct?
Yes.
In the sense that...
It's not London.
No.
Again, see, British people are very territorial of what their part of the culture is.
Well, I'm not even British, technically. I just grew up there.
Yeah.
I'm Irish originally, hence the name Killian.
Yeah.
But...
a lot of Irish in Liverpool.
Yeah, there is a lot of Irish.
One of my favorite cities.
A lot of Liverpool actually looks like Dublin.
I've heard a lot of the last names. I stayed at the... one of my earliest gigs was at the Slaughterhouse in Liverpool.
Oh, yeah. It's
probably 2004.
Yeah, that's a great gig.
And I stayed in the pub, and it was they gave me this whole 2-hour tutorial on how the place is haunted and good night.
Oh, everyone's fucking
yeah, it's England. Everything's haunted.
About England, everywhere's fucking haunted, and of course it's not. And then you just stay up all night. This guy, am I going to hear this ghost? Am I going to hear No, you're not. Nothing's haunted. You just, shut the fuck up with your bullshit. It's just like a way for these people just to waste your time for 2 hours and just twat on about a story.
So you grew up in it. It was like cool. It was like having a wizard tell me a magical spell. I was like, what? The pub is haunted. Yeah. And I'm like, sure it is.
Yeah.
You just call me when the walls start bleeding, when it starts to get cool around here. I got a soundtrack
and
for that
the elevator
shit.
Doors slide open and the fucking
give me that Shining
blood.
experience, not like, a dead child's shadow in the window.
Yeah.
That's not going to cut it.
Yeah. What was it? Some comedian has a joke about like all these ghost stories. They go into a child's playroom. Over there in the corner, a child sometimes people hear a child playing with toys.
Yeah.
Really, in a children's playroom. Yeah. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, it must be the echo of their dead voices.
Yeah.
There's a, that's part of the tourism in England. You get all those castles and shit. You can get people to believe anything. You show something that's older than the country they're from, and they'll blow their mind.
Well, there's, do you know the Blarney Stone in Ireland?
Yeah.
We
Mike Wilmot says they pee on it.
We piss on it.
You do piss on it.
Yeah, because we know
does that in a bit.
We know that stupid Americans will go and kiss it.
No, they piss on it. He goes, that was in his bit. He goes, you get to Ireland, blah, blah, blah. You fall off a stool. They'll make up a song and sing it about you. And he goes, and don't kiss the Barney Stone. They piss on it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a gag, but that makes a lot of sense.
No, we piss on it.
Piss on the stone. That's so fucking like, any Mel Gibson period movie where that's the rebellious aspect of the culture, though. You come over and glorify this rock. You're an idiot.
Well, I think that's also because the Irish have kind of a wonderful disrespect when when it comes to stuff because I think it's partly because of Irish history, which is not exactly.
My grandmother said there used to be signs saying no dogs, no Irish,
no blacks,
no blacks,
no blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
Yeah.
That was in. You'd see that window. You'd see that sign in pub windows in. I can't remember when
I figure that bring them closer as a community.
Quite recently in history, that was enforceable. I think that was until the 60s or something, which in the scheme of things isn't actually that long ago. But it was strange that how we all kind of got lumped together like that in England, blacks, dogs, and Irish. But I was just concerned about what order it was. I don't know why Irish seemed to be last on the list.
My friend, he says he hates parents, teachers, and pedophiles. Walter, a Dutch comedian,
which is the...
the pedophiles are number 3. Parents, teachers, and children, and pedophiles. Number 3.
Are they all linked together somehow?
I don't know. He's Dutch. He grew up in Amsterdam. He's a comedian. Walter Mace, my buddy of mine. He's like 6'4" and about 110 pounds. Wow. Rides a bicycle through the Canary Islands and stuff. And I met him. I did a show. I bombed so bad at Toomler's in Amsterdam.
Oh, okay.
I was all, I'm going to bring my taboo comedy to fucking Holland. And I fucking died. It was a bath. It was the first time I ever been stared at in a collective of a disappointed family.
I was going to ask, what was it staring, or was it like there was noise attached
Steve
to it?
had done the joke a year earlier, or they'll stare at you until you cry.
Yeah.
And I had no idea of that. I've never dealt with a collective of this is what you do with your time.
Mike Wilmot, I think, has
10 British people pissing themselves laughing at a table. 200 Dutch people not having it.
It's funny because even when you're sort of dying at these gigs, if you do a really dark joke, like involving...
It'll provoke something.
You'll guaranteed you'll always get like a Brit in the corner just going...
Yeah.
When you're doing like a cancer joke or something.
Showing a human quality out of awkwardness. They were giving me the 1,000-mile stare. It was... crowd work, anything. All my attempts were all like I was trying to hug somebody with no arms. It was brutal. Very humbling. Very humbling.
Mike Wilmot has the best joke about how they stare at you. They just have this look on your face as if to say, these are lies.
Yeah. I don't believe any of this. You're not being honest with us or yourself. And we frown upon that here. Yeah, Holland's great, though. I would go and bomb again just to hang out. Yeah, I got to redeem myself. The probably 2007, I think it was, the Lowlands Festival. And I got Stuart Francis in the Tool.
No way.
Yeah, we were doing it, and Stanhope was doing the Unbookables.
Okay.
And it was like Sugar Sammy, and Jamie Kilstein actually was on that.
Yeah.
And Doug and the Unbookables. And... Stuart Francis was on the show, and I said, listen, you should look at this band. I don't even know what kind of music. You like rock and roll, you should come and check out Tool. And we went and watched Tool, and it was epic. I was high on mushrooms, I think, and he was just stoked by it. So now he's like a Tool fan. I don't know what that has to do with anything. But Holland is a tough place to do comedy.
Well, so is Germany, I discovered. Because I got booked.
They do like one English... night a month or something.
Yeah, it was through what the fuck is that dude's name? Jeff Whiting.
Oh, Jeff Whiting.
Yeah.
He used to, when I'd first come there in 2004, he was my guy, and then he cut me off, and I got Off the Curb was my
so he used to represent you.
Yeah, kind of.
Or he just kept booking you.
I think I'd done a showcase in East Hastings.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, East Hastings. Northeast London, anyway. And anyway, I've done some showcases.
This dude is famous for just... If there would be like a crack in the wall
where you could put a microphone and like the watchful eye of an audience member, he would run a gig there. Like he would just fucking like what was that? You know, Jeff Whiting walks into a bar, comedy club opens.
Yeah,
you know, he would everywhere.
Yeah,
and like
there was supply and demand.
I think this was for him. If it's not, I do apologize. But if he is listening, but if this wasn't for him, sorry. But I'm pretty sure it was. I did a hair salon in Soho in London. And they had no sound system, but a fake microphone. And they said to me beforehand, they said, "We got a fake microphone." I said, "That's fine. I'll just like talk." And they went, "No. They don't laugh if you don't hold it." I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" They said, "Yeah, they don't laugh if you don't hold it."
What do you mean, like Chris Angel? Yeah. Is this a magic wand?
I was like, yeah, exactly. It's just like it's like their prompts.
You told them, yeah. That's a weird mass hypnosis thing. Yeah, if the mic shuts off during the show, I put it down and we go Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Why try and reinvent the wheel? People have been talking, yelling at strangers in dirt roads for years.
It was like their equivalent of me waving when they should laugh.
Well, she's probably a failed artist, honestly, who thinks that she knows a little bit about show business. It looks better with the microphone in your hand.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that would be one thing if they were paying punters sat down in like audience style seating. No, these are fucking customers in the salon getting their fucking hair done.
That's where you shoot your special. Totally. That's exactly. You could spend $100,000 on a theater, lights, cameras. You get a couple GoPros and bomb in a salon while some girl's getting fucking her asshole waxed. Dude.
Bleached.
You're not even. English is a second language. Half of it's Filipino and some Russian ladies that are getting their assholes bleached.
In Soho in London.
Yeah. No. You go Manhattan. You go way over the bend. Oh, okay. So you're just some asshole from out of town. Well, they're trying to get their shit straight so they can hook on the weekends. Anyway.
It still kind of. It still surprises me to this day that people plow their fucking hard-earned cash into the fucking Edinburgh Festival every single year. I mean, if you're a comic that is coming, if you're an American comic that's like in a like Ari Shafir, I think just did Edinburgh last year, maybe.
I think a couple of years earlier. I think he's been a few times now.
Yeah, well, that I can understand because he's that kind of.
No one would find him otherwise.
Yeah,
they're not looking. That's the thing. London alone, I think, I'm also speaking from a dated reference, but when I left, the talent, international talent. New York is pretty metropolitan as far as style, but you got comedians from 20 different countries on the circuit.
London at one point had a real fucking...
It was on fire, man.
It was...
When I lived at Cranley Gardens in the Madhouse...
Well, that used to be the comedians. I was there once for a fucking party. It was after Steve and I had just seen Emperor at the Astoria.
Okay.
It was Emperor's...
I saw Gorgoroth at the Astoria.
It was Emperor's one and only
that's by the
London
Crowbar.
Yes.
It's closed now. That was a great venue.
Yeah, the Astoria was historic.
Yeah.
And Emperor had reunited after splitting up for the first time after they released the album Prometheus, The Discipline of Fire and Demise. And they had reunited, and like I found out they had reunited for a few select shows. They were doing like Wacken and a couple of European festivals. This is before the European circuit was like fucking where it is now. Where it's a circuit. This was just a handful of gigs and one indoor gig at the London Astoria. I think they did a couple of indoor gigs like at BB King's in Manhattan and
this
maybe
is
one
a big reunion tour.
Yeah, this is
lineup.
Like super exclusive, you know.
Only a handful of dates.
And only a handful of dates.
Was there an album release then?
No.
Okay, so this is
because
like
they'd said before Prometheus was even released that they were splitting up. That Emperor had run its course, and Emperor were my gateway to the extreme scene. Like I love that band.
Mine was Bronski Beat. Yeah,
and
I found out they were reuniting through a voicemail that Steve had left me.
Killian, Emperor are reuniting at the London Astoria. We must go. We must go. I repeat, they are reuniting. Emperor are reuniting at the London Astoria. Yeah. We must go.
It's a red alert.
Go. Yeah.
He's very enthusiastic and to the point.
Oh yeah, well,
you do not miss these shows.
No, and so I got on the fucking phone. I bought like 3 tickets, by mistake. I was only supposed to get 2, but we eventually went with Anil.
Yeah. I follow him on social media. He's in and out of like Australia.
He's over there a lot. Yeah. He's got a following out there.
I love him. He reminds me of Edinburgh and stuff. He does a lot of good impressions.
He keeps telling me that because he never recognizes me every time I bump into him.
What's his
Does I?
Yeah.
Forgive me, Anil, if I've mispronounced that, but he always says that he never recognized me because I always change my look every time I see him.
He looks the same. He looks 27 his entire life.
Whereas I've kind of sort of fluctuated. I've gone from long hair to short hair to clean shaven to beard to skinny little dweeb to just a bit chunky.
Yeah. Menopausal.
I've gone through various stages of hot flushes throughout my imagery. But, so we went to see Emperor, had a fucking blast, and then I was proceeded to be dragged around half of London by Steve, and we eventually...
I've been on those tractor pulls.
Oh, God. And
it's fun, though. I love it. My hands are sweating.
Oh, it was. This wasn't fun. This was him
is
just
Soho at 4 a.m.
He was just dragging me around like, don't worry, we'll find you a couch. You can just fucking crash out. I was like, where are you going to find me a couch? Yeah. Like on the street. And we eventually ended up at that fucking madhouse at Cranley Gardens where there was a house party going on. And I was just like, okay, where am I going to find? Because I was willing to just fucking bail and find. Shitty bedsit somewhere. Yeah. Just because I was exhausted.
You actually ended up at the worst place.
Yeah.
Trying to get sleep.
I mean, this was just comedians, broken, beaten, emotionally scarred.
It was a beautiful old English home that had, when I lived there I remember Dora O'Brien coming over.
Yeah.
And Ed Byrne and... various actresses and rock stars, and they would take acid and watch Ernest Goes to Camp all night.
Wow.
On a screen in a blacked out room. I went into the room and everyone's on beanbag chairs, tripped out watching every Ernest movie. Ernest Goes Here, Ernest This, on a loop. And I'm hearing people in London yelling, "Genius!" all tripped out. Yeah, that house was it was great.
It's now taken over by a group of death metal heads, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like a metal, because the heavy metal scene in London. All those.
It's a nice neighborhood.
It is a very cool neighborhood. Yeah. But yeah, I think so. I think it's like sort of been taken over by metalheads.
I would be surprised that they would let another group of artists in there after the rinse through.
It's just
like we had some crazy stuff I can't even go into detail about, but it was insane. And it was so much fun, What an eclectic group of people. Oxford graduates, former comedy duos, and everybody under the sun would come through that place.
Oh, that was why I was so exhausted, because the night before, I think I'd bumped into you. It was the Manchester Comedy Festival, and Stanhope was doing Manchester for the first time.
That's right. And there's a pub on the corner in the daytime or something, I think.
I can't remember. Yeah. But we ended up back at Steve's studio apartment, I think is the polite way of putting it.
Yeah. it was a shoebox with a record player.
Basically, yeah. With a little crate of rocks by the corner of the window. Yeah. And because when I first met Steve, he invited me round always to jam. Because when we first met and started talking, This is the fucking longest roundabout to how I met Steve I've ever told. But
I don't look so bad this episode.
I'm telling you, like, everyone's going to be listening to this guy. Who the fuck is this guy? Anyway, we hit it off because we pretty much discovered that we had virtually identical tastes in not just heavy metal, but in music, in that we both loved Emperor and Enya. Like that was our sort of gateway to know that we were on the level with each other. A
Canadian artist, as you know.
Yeah.
Enya.
Yeah, a famously Canadian artist.
Right. Enya. I like Enya.
I love Enya. I don't get why she, like, what, everyone fucking hates her. What did she do? I mean, like...
She got grouped in with Nickelback and Kenny G.
But even,
for no reason.
What even, like, Nickelback? I don't, like, I couldn't, I'm not really...
It's a fad. It's like Richard Gere.
Trendy to hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, what the fuck do they do to you? You know? Yeah.
Leave him alone. Leave Kenny G alone.
But like, yeah. So that's how we discovered that we just kept listing bands that we love. And we're like, I fucking love that band too.
Yeah.
So
that's you got some good Steve Hughes mannerisms. Some of this is lost to the people. Who
yeah.
Some of it
the one thing I'm pretty sort of like. Do you understand? It's retarded. You know that thing with his hands that he always does?
Yeah, he's complimenting you and chastising you at the same time. It's very endearing.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to make a point without hurting your feelings.
Yeah. Well, he's got a very famous clip of him. And by the way, this is not to... I love that man. He's my brother.
Oh, yeah, he's the best.
Like, I love that man with all of my heart. I miss him so much.
Yeah, he's not dead.
No, not at all.
He's in Australia, you're in England, I'm in California.
We're
across these
miles
circles.
apart, and it takes a long time.
And I run
for
into
people.
you at the Comedy Store.
Of all places.
So we'll go from how we met with Steve to the current time.
But... So, like, I love Steve. He has a viral clip, if anybody wants to check him out, which has gone viral on social media in this sort of politically correct
Wow, way ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah, way ahead. He was talking about this shit years before. A good decade.
I remember seeing his Edinburgh show.
A good decade before all of this political correctness mayhem that we're experiencing now. Yeah, he was... talking about, and he not only talking about, but chastised relentlessly amongst the British comedy scene. British comedy has
you
this
got labeled
weird
as a Nazi sympathizer and all this fucking shit. You're after the wrong dude.
Completely the wrong guy.
Completely, like so over the bend. I mean,
you have no idea, like the empathy that this man has for the dispossessed.
Yes.
And for the
underdog.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He's like, he won't go to a supermarket. He will go to a local butcher or a local fruit.
Tried to find food with him.
Yeah.
He's like, no, mate.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
No, mate, we're not going here.
Dude,
I don't trust the fucking meat.
The guy was like probably a millionaire, and he had a pay-as-you-go phone.
Yeah. He refuses to get a smartphone. He won't get a smartphone.
I love it.
And he resists. He's got not to shatter any illusions now, but he does have an iPad, a tablet, and that's pretty much just to manage his email and Skype people.
Sure, he's very minimalistic.
He's not materialistic at all. He's extremely frugal, for good reason, because he understands the way the world works, and he understands how, if you don't have money in this society, this westernized society we live in, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You know, he gets mocked quite a bit but for being crazy or whatever.
He doesn't give a fuck. He shouldn't give a fuck.
Well, he doesn't give a fuck. And but I mean, like, I've heard people, like, because everyone knows how close I am to him.
It's easy for them to be flippant. They don't know him.
Yeah, exactly. And but it's the one thing the one mistake you could make with him is underestimate how intelligent he is.
Oh yeah,
he's extremely smart. So where the fuck was I going with it? Oh yeah, he was. He's got this clip on social media of people being offended.
Yeah, I played it in numerous places.
Yeah, and there's a bit in it where he's repeating
Like he's reacting to people telling like I was offended, and he has a bit where he just go the bit that makes me laugh isn't even the punchline. It's him just going I don't care.
Yeah,
because I've seen that exasperated for real. I've seen him.
Oh, it's rooted in anchored in the truth.
Oh, it's completely rooted in. That's why that
makes me laugh. That bit makes me laugh more than anything else because I've seen him like pacing around the room. Ranting about
you do
people.
not want to get in a moral high ground argument with Steve Hughes.
No, because he will annihilate you
with truth.
With truth, really, and logic, and
that's why when I saw you last night.
Yeah,
at the Comedy Store, I was like, I always associate you with that our good friend.
That was a superb segue into me meeting you at the Comedy Store.
Exactly. So this is weird. You're passing by. You know how many people I've run into, like comedians from Finland and various characters in and around the comedy industry that on the patio at the Comedy Store. It's such a. It
seems to be that kind of sort of center of the universe sort of place.
Yeah, if you've been around comedy for a long period of time, you're still kind of there's some curiosity, like those animals.
Yeah. You can see the look in their eyes of
like, I've been around these people before.
I've seen that
broken
loss
toys.
Of hope.
Yeah. Can I make a movie?
I've seen that disillusioned look before. That's
hunched
shoulders.
Oh yeah, people develop a form of scoliosis.
I've got a fucking dreadful posture. I mean, like this. But I was gonna say, like, this is the first time I've, held a microphone like this since I've been. Since I was on stage last, pouring my heart and soul out, looking for affirmation for completely indifferent people.
Martin Big Pig.
Martin Moore.
Yes. I know him. He doesn't like Big Pig anymore.
No.
Really?
I accidentally introduced it. The last time I was actually involved in the Edinburgh Festival 7 years ago, I think.
He wasn't having it.
I was introducing acts because I was
Martin more angry.
Well, yeah. I mean, but
he wasn't angry. He just said to me, Martin Moore.
Well, I think in that maybe that era earlier, I remember seeing a lot of comedy guys that had like man with a beard.
Yes,
they'd have these kind of shticky names that you would see more in a black comedy circuit, where there was some sort of in their name there would be some of their shtick would be involved in it in some form or another. But I think a lot of people outgrew that. I just thought of Roger Monkhouse telling a joke at the fucking London Comedy Store and him walking through Soho and someone calling him a bald cunt. I don't know. I'm having all these like comedic flashbacks.
I remember.
Jeff Innocent, American Act is at the store. He's giving Jeff Innocent his credits, and Jeff is like, "Mate, no one gives a shit. You're on next. Don't fuck this up."
Yeah, that sounds like Jeff.
And like a dashiki or something. He was doing his warm-ups for his Edinburgh show. But yeah, it was. There was.
I remember Al Barry
stumbling into the green room at the London store.
Alistair Barry.
Fuck. Pissed as,
always sharply dressed.
Always sharply, very well done. But it was kind of ironic because this is where I'm leading to with this. Is
always sharp.
Stumbles in drunk. And I mean, I've got a lot of time for Al when he's drunk.
I love him.
But he had been, I think it was some Pride parade or something. I can't remember what was going on, but there was a lot of drag queens and transgenders out on the streets, having fun in London.
Yeah.
And he was, and somebody was mentioning this, and Al just interjects, "Well, somebody should tell them they look awful."
He's got $300 ostrich skin shoes on.
Yeah. So. I mean, that was a long time ago as well. If he said that today, he'd be funny.
No, but I think the gay community would have appreciated being challenged on their fashion sense. And let's not be honest, not all gay people dress sharply.
No. Well, I think that taste is subjective.
Exactly. It's like music. Some people like a guy wearing a bow tie and chaps. I would not wear that unless it was like parent teacher Jay. I'm having a stroke.
Yeah.
Do the show.
You just casually swig that.
Black Death. I'm going to do a show tonight. A live podcast at the Ha Ha. I should, let's take a look here and see what we're at. Because I'm terrible at promoting myself.
Yeah. Which is kind of a bit of a drawback, considering it's a bit of a self-promotion profession.
I feel a little guilty. It's like tricking somebody into a trap.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like
the trap being
I'm trapping people into a room and berating them. Verbal assaults to their person and the people they care about. And then I expect money for that.
Yeah,
but there's a small audience. It's called Denmark, I think.
Well, that's kind of
stand-up comedy in general, really. I wouldn't say that's just you. I mean, that's just...
and I think that's lost a bit.
I mean, it is a very egotistical thing.
Well, let's talk about this. You know, we talked earlier how you were involved in the comedy industry, and now you've kind of got to look at it from two different perspectives now.
Yes.
You know, as seen the climate change as a.
I get asked. I think I know where you're going.
I get asked a lot if I would ever go back to it, and because when I quit 7 years ago, I just realized it wasn't happening. I was like I said at the start, I was 19 when I started.
Yeah.
I had zero live experience, and I was in a rut. I had my material was.
It was part of what got you to here.
It is exactly what.
So it was a stepping. It wasn't a career move, but it allowed you to probably to express yourself in an environment.
But I was in it 100%.
Yeah,
I wasn't in it to be a hobbyist or just fuck around every once in a while.
You've been around some great comics to know enough that you couldn't piss about.
No,
they were your friends.
They were my friends, but they wouldn't. They would tell me if it sucked or not.
Yeah.
Or at least some did, some wouldn't. They'd just be nice and just keep trying, keep being. But I just got to a point where I was just being I wasn't progressing. Promoters were fucking bullshitting me. One of my biggest faults. Excuse me, still to this day.
Your patience for horseshit?
My patience for horseshit.
I already knew that about you after the first time I met you. I just knew it. You didn't. And in respect to you in this business, it's so unprofessional at times, and you're dealing with people that are working out of their mother's basement.
Sure.
And they're booking gigs, and they're fucking giving you stress, or nickel diming you this, or no this and that, and then you become in this situation where you could familiarize yourself with these people and go, they're not helping anything. They're an obstacle. They're in my way now, and that becomes an ongoing problem. And if you're impatient and genuine, you're gonna have problems.
Exactly, and
no
one
one
of the
wants
things
to see your good deeds.
And I was especially from a young, fiery kid in his early 20s.
Yeah,
and
who's a little frustrated and hangs out with a lot of wild people.
Yeah.
So there's no one's telling you to cool it.
No. But, there were, but I mean, like Steve would tell me just, because the first time I remember I fucking died a death at the Manchester Comedy Store. It was my my first open spot there was a Christmas gig.
Oh no, those are the worst.
Yeah, well, this is my first year of stand-up. I had no idea what Christmas gigs were like.
Was Don Ward there?
No, luckily no.
My friend was. I'll tell my buddy's bombing story after yours.
But I had to go on after Sean Collins.
Oh yeah,
tearing the fucking roof off for half an hour.
You got set up.
Yeah.
Sean Collins is a Canadian who's been over there for years. Killer.
Amazing. Great guy too. And so we mentioned the Gong Show earlier. I'd won the Gong Show I'd won the Gong Show actually the month that Jim Jeffries was the Gong Meister. And so I was young and naive and thinking, well, I've won the Gong Show audience over. How hard can this be, right? I can handle bear pits. Biggest fucking setup.
Different animal.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Different animal. You were fighting snakes that night.
It was just this noise erupted about 5 minutes into my set. And I was a scrawny little clean-shaven dweeb with like curtain hair because I was growing it out
on the balcony.
Like,
fuck!
I was wearing a suit just because I thought that's what you have to do. And
no, this sounds like a terrible ending.
And so there's like 3 types of bombing on stage. There's like getting silence, there's getting talked over, and there's getting booed. I got all 3 within inside of 5 minutes.
Arguably one of the most hostile cities in the country.
I mean, like Manchester, especially back then.
You get the fuck kicked out of you.
Manchester's very...
Is it mellowed?
It's mellowed a bit. It's still Manchester underneath it. But, I mean, like...
Back then, certainly, like, it was rough back then. And so I come on, and it was just one of those... They smelt blood. And they erupted into this noise that kind of
pissed off their face.
And I eventually just like put the microphone back into the stands, was like, this isn't going to work, is it? And
they'll push hard.
And the MC was already behind me. And I was 20 years old at this point. And
fed to the wolves.
And that was my first experience of wanting to curl up in the shower in the fetal position and just like...
What am I even doing here?
Yeah, what am I doing with my life?
Why was I even, why did I think I could make 700, 600, whatever many people laugh? All from like 2 offices or something stupid like that. And
that's part of the process, though, is you don't know. There's no handbook or structure to it.
But the thing that lifted me out of it, because if you've never done it, you don't know what that first feeling
is like, where people are just telling your soul.
Oh, you could be the biggest, strongest, confident person, and to get a room of people to despise you and you their faces are. They want to. It goes caveman in a second.
Yeah, they've got so much energy to tell you how much you are shit.
Yeah,
and
the women when they yell, that hurts my feelings.
See, they never really bothered me. It was like
it was the other guy.
It was the dudes, especially because I was always.
Come on, mates.
But I was like, but you see, I was in growing up. I was surrounded by rugby jocks. They were always intimidating me and always kind of just
We call them hockey players in Canada.
Right, okay.
Same shit.
Yeah, and so it was always like, that was one of the reasons why in the last few years or so I started training jiu-jitsu, MMA, and powerlifting, was because I was just like, you know what, fuck this, I'm sick of being a scrawny little fuck.
Yeah.
And being scared all the time
yeah.
of dudes that could, hand my ass to me. I'm just going to fucking get good at this. But but as you were saying, I had to go through all of those fucking hurdles
of figuring shit out. I'm a big believer in figuring shit out on your own.
Most definitely. People can give you advice until the cows come home.
But the thing that lifted me out of that depression was
my fist fucking the nun joke. Is it? Everyone loves the mushy sound.
the mushy
and that's when I saw the light, and Jesus was in my heart.
I wouldn't have described it as a mushy sound. It was, well, squelch.
Squelch.
Oh. Anyway.
Muddy.
I'm rusty when it comes.
Yeah.
But Steve texted me, asked me how I was doing, if I wanted to come around for a jam or something like that.
Can't remember, but he was asking me how I was doing, and I told him, like, not fucking good. I just died on my fucking ass at the Comedy Store, and this, the other, all this. And his response was, so you've died at the Comedy Store. Cool, I've done that.
Yep.
And that was it.
Yeah.
It was, like, kind of instantly lifted me out.
Yeah.
Like, it was sort of...
No one's vulnerable or immune to...
But it was that brush. It was two things. It was that, one, somebody has
good and as accomplished as
he
him.
summarized everything that you needed to hear in a sentence.
Exactly. He just
and he
brushed
so
it
close
off.
to home. And all right, get back to the books.
Exactly.
And move on, whatever it may be.
And I kind of made it my mission from then on to basically go, okay, that's not happening again. I'm going to be.
It's painful experience.
I'm going to be the guy that's going to, be you put me in a rowdy room, they ain't getting away with shit.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm a humble guy. I don't like to blow my own trumpet a lot, but I was fucking good in a rowdy room. In a quiet room, in a low energy audience, I stunk the room out even worse.
You grew up in an environment that was probably you were pushing against the general population, and so to be in a comedy situation, you've already poised to have somebody come attack you.
And plus, at the time,
if they're just sitting there and disinterested, you have no thing.
No, but also the way I looked at the time, was also an invitation for hecklers as well. Just being like this long-haired kid with a heavy metal shirt in front of Northern English Brits.
Thought you'd come in from the shopping mall or something like that.
Just youth, and I'm young. It's a lot of people that have had a brutal life up north and stuff like that. But they became my favorite gigs, like especially in the northeast of England, like it's sort of Hartlepool, Middlesbrough, Stockton, those shitholes.
I bombed so bad in Tunbridge Wells. Right? And you know exactly, people watching, Tunbridge Wells is like, you're talking about bombing. They hated me because I was poor. They didn't even give me a chance. I asked them about jobs and they all laughed. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, like,
it's fun. I revel in it now. There's a video on YouTube called Jason Rouse, Not Everyone's Gonna Like You. And it's a video of a angry patron busting into the green room and berating me, telling me she wishes I get cancer and die.
Wow.
Well, I'm doing a video blog.
Okay.
In Edinburgh.
Wow.
Oh, no. Yeah, Edinburgh. It was Edinburgh. At the Jongleurs that was short-lived there, I think.
Oh, the Jongleurs in that shopping centre that was on the corner of Princess Street?
Something like that. It was super high ceilings. I miss Scotland. There's some good gigs there.
There's some great, like the Stand.
Yeah, Glasgow Stand's one of my favorite clubs.
See, I never really I preferred Edinburgh. Everyone always put Glasgow over, but I always prefer. But I only did Glasgow on the Sunday night. I never did a full weekend in Glasgow. I did the full weekend in Edinburgh and then did the Sunday night in Glasgow. And then my girlfriend at the time fucked the whole thing up for me, pissed off all the management. So I never played there again. That's a long. I'm not getting into that one, but because if you get me started on that fucking bitch, then we ain't going anywhere. But,
all right. Well, I haven't even turned on the microphones yet. We've been just practicing. This is just a practice show.
But yeah, no, Scotland's got some great good. But it is that typical thing of the areas in England where life is shit are usually going to be the best places to do because they're glad that you're there.
And that you shut up. From what I've heard, like America's kind of the same with the flyover states, like in the middle of the country.
There's an oversaturation of talent in this city. So when you perform, you're performing to people in the industry or associated with it. So a lot of them have a bug up their ass anyway. So a lot of the comedy shows that are outside of the major clubs are just all comedians.
Yeah.
You're on stage and I'm telling them about comedy from the future. I just watch everything from 89 to 95. And it's the worst.
Well, oversaturation kind of brings me to me getting out, which is sort of 2010, 2011-ish.
I just sort of, like I said, like promoters were just not being straight. They're all telling me, everyone progresses at
it started
to
dry up. You were peaking when it was plummeting.
Yes. Yeah.
So you were
so everyone was being very picky about who they wanted to be the next big thing and who they wanted to support and promote and all that kind of shit. I just wasn't.
Favoritism.
Yeah, nepotism,
politics, talent,
massively
all that,
took over.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of being very straight up and honest with people and not like being a cunt about it, far from it, but just like, well, hang on, you told me I need to do this, that, and the other to get this spot.
Yeah.
I've done this, that, and the other. Where's this spot? And then,
It's
like, email
distraction.
also.
Also, the other thing is that when I started, there was no social media.
No.
There was no real. If you wanted to get a gig, you had to pick up the phone and call somebody.
Yeah.
And then email started to take over. There was no Wi-Fi or anything when I started, so people didn't really use email that much.
Text messaging was the thing.
Yeah, texting or whatever.
England was like huge on text messaging.
Yeah. And then, but then email took over, and then that became another way for promoters just to fucking get rid of you and fob you off. And then, and then social media started, Facebook got really big and everything, and then Facebook messaging. So that became the new sort of, there was always this different medium where as the scene got more and more overly saturated, there just became more methods for people to just fucking be rid of you.
Yeah, they cut out the middleman. All the nickel and dime promoters got replaced by Facebook invites.
Yeah. So they would just
pages, yeah.
they would tell you a different thing every time, or send me an email, or send me a message on Facebook, or leave me a voicemail. I'll totally get back to you. Yeah. And there were some that were true to the word, but there was a fuck ton that would just.
That's what's in place in this town.
Oh really?
Yeah, same horseshit.
Oh wow.
Same horseshit.
Yeah. Well, then
I get messages on newsletter. Anyway, I don't want to get into it.
No. But so that crept in, and nepotism crept in, and then this whole kind of
Live at the Apollo, sort of live stand-up on TV culture kicked in.
McIntyre, the cunt.
McIntyre was. I only met him a couple of times. He was nice to me.
Didn't go well.
Oh, did you do it?
No, I threatened his life at the Glee Club one night.
Well, that'll do it.
And with Ben Hurley, because of Will Smith.
Okay.
I love Will.
Yeah.
The British.
Yeah.
comedian.
I know you're on about.
And anyway, it got. He was headlining, and there was some disrespect on the show, and I'd had enough. But Ben Hurley,
for the Americans that are listening to this, Michael McIntyre is like the biggest thing. He's like he's pretty much. Just in terms of scale, not in terms of style or anything like that, but in terms of scale.
He's a household name.
Yeah, exactly. He's the biggest comedian in England.
Well, I don't know if you've seen my Wikipedia page, but I still don't give a fuck.
I'm going to have to look that
up. Long story short, I saw the writing on the wall. I just thought, you know what? I emailed a bunch of people looking for advice on how to fucking get out of this shit,
and then or what to do. Actually, I was
basically looking for people to tell me what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
At a time where I was a bit lost. I was in a fucking miserable relationship that I shouldn't have been in,
or same cunt that was manipulating me. But I emailed a bunch of people. And
suicide letter.
Yeah.
And Jeff Whiting says, I got a gig for you. And a laundromat
in Soho.
Portsmouth. On a Wednesday at noon.
Can you do it?
Can you do it? Bring the letter. Read the letter at the end.
I've got a driver for you, but you're going to have to pay him half your wages.
Oh, my God. And it's written down. That's the craziest part. And you're looking it over going... Ugh.
I did one in Daventry with him, which is in the middle of fucking nowhere. I think the nearest thing in Daventry is an airport. And we had to set up the PA system.
Yeah. No, that happens all over the world. There's always subcontractors, we'll call them.
So I sent messages out to people looking for advice. The one guy who's like my good friend Dave Longley,
he's the one guy who didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. And
the truth?
Yeah, he said Dave Longley.
Oh,
who I've sort of reconnected with in recent years because he's still a comedian in England, excellent, and but he got me into. He didn't get me into, but he taught me how to properly powerlift, and we're both blue belts at jiu-jitsu, so we both. He's a fucking giant of a man. But
have you ever shook Josh Barnett's hand?
No,
that's another giant. Just like I'm a organic woman.
Well, I've never seen him in person, but I can imagine because like that dude is. I mean, he's one of the best grapplers in the entire sport,
and he's in the proper metal.
Yes, yeah. I always see him. I always see him on like Nergal's, Instagram or wearing a Watain shirt or something like that. He's he's got, and his nickname now is the War Master after bolt throwers. So I mean,
he's got superb taste.
I saw the last bolt thrower show in Canada.
I saw the last one in England at the Damnation Festival in Leeds.
When somebody died shortly after.
The drummer did, sadly. But Dave Longley was the only guy and he's still the only guy really in my life that's straight up with me and will,
kind of verbally slap me silly to get me to see
some
straight.
Hard truths.
And he basically just said to me, look, you're young, you haven't done anything yet, not as an insult or anything. He was just saying, you need to live your life before you're plowing yourself way too far emotionally and physically into this.
Your experience is lacking your drive.
Exactly. And he basically just said, just live your life.
Yeah, fuck up a little bit.
Yeah.
Get a little loose.
That you don't need to be doing this. Maybe in your mid-30s or something, then you think about coming back to this. But for now, you're too young to be doing this.
No, I had literally a nervous breakdown in my early 20s.
Right.
Because of the anxiety of all my role models were kind of blue-collar people.
Yeah.
So to go down the road of an artist and having the uncertainty that they were getting checks on a regular basis. There was more. You could see that they had a normality of their life, and there was sense. Yet I found out later on, there's no security in that either.
No.
So why not do something that you enjoy?
Well, I had a similar kind of experience in that my kind of artistic role models
were blue-collar people.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't come from a blue-collar background. I came from a really good upbringing, really
Horse thieves,
one.
I heard.
Somebody's got to do it. There's a market on the black market for thievery of horses and
penalty
shoes.
by death, isn't it? Horse thieves?
In certain circles.
So now, there's a very distinct class system. I remember working with a comic, and she says, I have to stay in the car because if they hear my accent in this area, they'll fuck us up.
Where was this?
We were in some pretty sketchy part of England. She was clearly a posh, atypical. She spoke awesome. She sounded great, proper English.
Yeah.
And we were in a sketchy part. She goes, I can't come out. We were at a sketchy petrol station.
Okay.
And she was concerned that the youth wouldn't take kindly to her accent.
Oh, her accent?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Right. I thought they meant your accent.
Oh, no. They just think I'm an American who's been in a motorcycle accident or something.
Well, that certainly is true. I mean, like, if you would be... certainly when I was doing stand-up, if you were in the wrong area of Manchester with, the wrong accent,
Not to mention football jersey.
Oh, yeah. Well,
just the locals are trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
It's not even that segregated. It's fucking Fury Road from the pub home.
Well, there's a fucking criminal called Dale Cregan, I think his name was, in Manchester.
He was my cobbler.
Was he? It's the guy, he shot 2 cops and killed them.
In England?
In England.
He had one of 3 guns.
2 women cops.
Fetish night?
He's just a fucking... the dude has one eye, for a start, and doesn't wear... no fucks given, doesn't wear a patch or anything.
Oh, glory hole Joe.
Built like a brick shit house.
He's huge and he's got one eye?
Yeah.
What are you going to say to that guy?
Well...
Nothing.
Apparently, some people haven't got that fucking message.
So he executed... What is he, a gangster?
He's just like... Yeah. I mean, just some underworld fucking heavy in Manchester. I mean, he's in jail now, in prison now.
You can't go to jail with one eye. I mean, like, someone's going to fuck it.
He shot up a pub, and threw a grenade in there. And this is like 6 years ago or something like that. You know, I mean, like so Manchester's kind of hipster and gentrified and studenty now, but I mean, like it's still fucking Manchester.
It gets a little Jack the Ripper, in certain areas. You know, that city, you know, there's those roads they're all zigzaggy horse trails and stuff.
But I mean, it was kind of what made me also feel slightly fraudulent being on stage as well, is that because like I didn't experience I was too busy giving myself shit for not having a fucking shit upbringing and a shit life. You know what I mean? And
that's weird.
And and
unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. But I you know, because everyone else around me
apparently some people are just a little more vocal and very descriptive.
Probably.
There's a lot of people that kind of will quote suffer in silence.
Yeah.
And he killed himself. He never expressed it like the other half pain horseshit people.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we're really here to talk about is Satan.
Yes. In the form of music.
But we're gonna do some shit. We're gonna go to do George Perez's stories. Maybe they'll probably have you on the show. And I'm doing the Ha Ha Comedy Festival, or North Hollywood Comedy Festival at the Ha Ha tonight. If you're in California, do you have anything you got?
Do I have? I used to be somebody. Now I'm a fucking nothing. No. Do you have anything to plug?
I have some shows.
You can follow me on social media if you give the slightest
you got an Instagram?
of shit. I've got an Instagram, Killian Monson. It's just a simple KILLIANMONSON. If you are so inclined to give a shit about this nobody. This is you being ashamed for your upbringing. People want to hear what you got to say. People want to hear of the privileged.
I'm doing the Download Festival in England, Donington Castle, right?
I'm not.
On June 7th and 6th at the Side Splitters tent. And then the Leicester Square Theater on the 15th. I don't normally get a chance to brag about some gigs, but the Download Festival is, go to www.download.co.uk. It's pretty cool. There's like 10 bands.
It's decent. Yeah, I mean,
it used to be a little more extreme.
I mean, it's about it. I remember. You see, I'm one of these purists when it comes to Donington. Like I remember when it was Monsters of Rock.
Yeah,
and there was like one stage, maybe two,
and there'd just be like 10 bands on, and they were all big fucking names.
Yeah. Now Hellfest in France is kind of taking over all that.
Yeah,
they're doing more extreme.
And Wacken. I mean, like Wacken especially for the extreme. But I mean, Download. There's there's hundreds of bands on across 5 stages, something like that, and maybe 10 of them you actually want to see. But I mean, there's
the environment.
Yeah,
it's a fun hangout.
It is.
People
fun.
are very nice.
I'm being a grumpy cunt.
You're a sour old cunt. You are. That's why no one wanted to book
music.
Yeah,
that's why no one.
You got your nose
me.
in the air.
But when it comes to music, I am a grumpy cunt because I don't like the name Download.
No,
because
I don't associate with pirating.
Exactly, and I'm a firm believer in paying for music.
And it has nothing to do with the thing.
No,
I think it should go back to Monsters of Rock.
I do too.
Yeah,
I like that should be.
Somebody came in their corporate office and rebranded it and fucking blew it.
Screw petitioning to ban Donald Trump from coming to England or anything. My campaign would just be changed. Download to Monsters of Rock.
You're a simple man.
I'm a very simple man.
You just want to go back, and then you'll start going.
Give a shit about these people who actually make decisions on my life. But, this is one thing I think we should all rally behind.
December 14th. I will be in Copenhagen.
Apologizing
for the lack of connection I've had with the children I've left behind in pails in and around abortion clinics in
child support.
The north of Denmark. I've never had a child that's lived.
Beyond how old?
How long? Coat hanger long, like 3 coat hangers long.
3 coat hangers.
Is that a long time?
I think that's, well, if we're going on length of how long it takes to get in, how many coat hangers? I'm imagining that's only a matter of days.
I think it's time for a cigarette. What a nice surprise. I had to say, I looked at you like 3 times, and I follow you on social media, so I was like, I think it's him.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at him hard one more time. Either he's going to punch me in the throat or go, hey, mate, how you doing?
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was you. And we're going to, I know you're only in town for a short time, and you have some plans to maybe move here in the future. It would be very cool. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having this fucking nobody here that's going to confuse the shit out of all of your loyal listeners.
People will appreciate the honesty.
I'm sure they will, in the form of trolling.
I don't care what society thinks. I'm good at nothing anyway.